Right now, there's a good chance one of these 5 security cameras is mounted above your front door, watching your kids play in the living room, or sitting inside a business you trust with your safety. 5 camera brands that federal regulators, state attorneys general, and the FCC have all taken formal action against for reasons ranging from employees secretly watching customers to footage ending up somewhere it was never supposed to go. Here's what makes this one land differently than anything else in this series. A hacked streaming box is embarrassing. A tracking TV is annoying. A camera that fails at its one job means someone was watching a place you paid good money to keep private. Sometimes a bedroom, sometimes a hospital room, sometimes a child's playroom. This isn't about your data being sold in a spreadsheet somewhere. It's about a live picture of your life ending up in front of someone who was never supposed to see it. And unlike some of the other topics we've covered, this isn't a story about theoretical risk or a vulnerability that was patched before anyone got hurt. Every single entry on this list comes with a documented real-world outcome, a specific case, a specific settlement, a specific moment where the failure stopped being hypothetical and started being someone's actual bedroom, actual hospital room, actual child. Before we get into it, if this is useful to you, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here, because I break down exactly this kind of thing every single week, the stuff hiding inside devices you bought to feel safer. We're counting down 5 security camera brands, by name, backed by FTC settlements, an FCC national security ban, and a state attorney general action. And stick around to the end, because after the 5, I'm giving you 4 specific cameras and systems we'd actually trust to do this job. Let's start with number 5. At number 5, Wyze, the budget camera brand that made home security affordable for millions of people, and also, 3 separate times now let strangers see into homes that weren't theirs. The bait is the price. A genuinely capable camera for a fraction of what bigger brands charge, which is exactly why Wyze became one of the best-selling security camera brands in the country. Here's the mechanic. In December 2019, an employee mistake left a Wyze database completely exposed to the open internet for 22 days. Exposing information on 2.4 million users, including email addresses, home Wi-Fi network names, and even health data from a group of beta testers. That would be a rough enough story on its own. It wasn't the last time. The tell is that this kept happening. In September 2003, a caching error let some Wyze users open the app and see thumbnail images and in some cases live video from cameras that belonged to complete strangers. Then, on February 16, 2024, it happened again. A separate breach let as many as 13,000 users access video and event thumbnails that weren't from their own cameras. Here's a detail that doesn't always make the headlines. Wyze's own response to the 2004 incident described the cause as a mix-up during a rapid device reconnection event, essentially devices flooding back online after an outage and getting cross-wired to the wrong accounts in the process. 3 different incidents, 3 different technical explanations, and the same basic result each time: a stranger looking at a camera feed from inside someone else's home. The cost of a pattern like this isn't just the specific data exposed each time, it's what it tells you about the underlying system. A single breach can be bad luck. 3 spread across 5 years starts to look like a structural weakness the company hasn't actually fixed, no matter how many apology emails go out afterward. Each incident came with its own version of the same message. We found the problem, we fixed it, it won't happen again, and each time, it happened again. You won't believe what's coming up next, because this one didn't get hacked by an outsider at all. It got caught lying about its own product. Number 4, Eufy, the Anchor-owned camera brand that spent years marketing itself as the answer to cloud privacy concerns, right up until it turned out that marketing wasn't true. The bait was the entire pitch. No monthly fees, no cloud subscription required, footage processed and stored 100% locally on your own hardware. For anyone who'd read a story like the ones on this list and wanted a way to avoid the cloud entirely, Eufy looked like the obvious answer. Here's the mechanic. In November 2022, a security consultant named Paul Moore discovered that Eufy cameras were uploading thumbnail images, and in some cases full footage, to the cloud, despite the local-only promise. Worse, that uploaded content was accessible through a direct URL viewable in an ordinary media player like VLC, with no login required. The tell is what happened when Anchor got caught. The company initially denied it. Only after weeks of continued pressure and reporting did Anchor's own communications chief admit to The Verge that Eufy cameras genuinely weren't using the encryption the company had been claiming, and that they were working to fix it. The cost eventually became official. In January 2025, Eufy's parent company Anchor settled with the New York Attorney General for $450,000 over the misleading marketing. Here's the detail worth sitting with for a second. By early 2006, the story had moved beyond consumer privacy entirely. Members of Congress publicly called for a formal FCC and Department of Commerce investigation into Anchor, citing the same category of national security concern, usually reserved for a very different name on this list. Picture the position that puts a customer in. Someone who read the marketing closely chose Eufy precisely because it promised to keep footage off the internet entirely, and paid extra for that peace of mind, only to learn the promise itself was the part that wasn't true. I'm sure you've seen this next brand's cameras before, maybe without even realizing it, because a huge share of what's sold under other names is actually built by the same company. At number 3, Hikvision and Dahua, two Chinese manufacturers that between them make an enormous share of the security cameras sold worldwide, including many that don't carry either name on the box. The bait, for a lot of buyers, isn't even a conscious choice. These two companies function as contract manufacturers for a long list of other brands, meaning a camera bought under a completely different label can still be Hikvision or Dahua hardware underneath. Here's the mechanic. In 2021, the FCC placed both companies on its covered list, identifying them as an unacceptable risk to national security. In November 2022, the FCC banned new equipment from Hikvision and Dahua from receiving U.S. authorization at all, a decision a federal appeals court upheld in 2024. The underlying concern comes from Chinese national intelligence law, which can compel Chinese companies to cooperate with government data requests, raising the possibility of built-in backdoor access. This isn't a uniquely American conclusion either. Multiple other countries have independently restricted or banned this same hardware from government and sensitive site use. The tell is how recent this got worse. On June 26, 2026, about a month before this video, the FCC voted to expand the ban significantly further, this time covering older equipment that had already been authorized and installed, not just new sales aimed at government facilities, critical infrastructure, and public safety use. That rule takes effect in July 2026. Here's a lesser-known fact worth knowing before you buy anything generic. Because Hikvision and Dahua build so much of the industry's hardware behind the scenes, a large share of unfamiliar, off-brand security cameras sold on general marketplaces are rebadged versions of the exact equipment this video is describing, even when the packaging never mentions either name. The cost here isn't a single breach or a single settlement. It's an entire category of hardware that multiple governments, not just the United States, have independently concluded shouldn't be trusted with sensitive footage, and a labeling problem that makes it genuinely hard to know what you're buying without checking. I'm sure you've been a victim of the next one without knowing it either, because this one wasn't strangers hacking in from outside. It was the company's own employees. Number 2, Ring, the Amazon-owned doorbell and camera brand that became a household name, and then a case study in exactly what happens when a company gives too many people access to too much footage. The bait is convenience and scale. See who's at your door from anywhere, tied directly into the largest retail and cloud ecosystem in the country, backed by a brand most people already trust with their online shopping. Here's the mechanic. The FTC's May 2023 complaint against Ring described something far worse than a technical bug. For years, the company gave a sweeping number of employees and contractors broad access to customers' private videos, with essentially no real restrictions on who could look at what. Here's the real case, laid out directly in the FTC's own complaint. In the summer of 2017, a single Ring employee spent several months viewing thousands of video recordings belonging to at least 81 different female users, deliberately searching for cameras with names like Master Bedroom and Master Bathroom. Ring eventually narrowed access after this was discovered internally, but the FTC found the broader access problem continued largely unaddressed for years afterward. The tell compounds from there. Separately, between January 2019 and March 2020, weak account security let outside hackers break into more than 55,000 Ring customers' accounts through credential stuffing and brute force attacks, gaining access to hundreds of thousands of videos of people's bedrooms and their children's bedrooms. The cost was a $5.8 million FTC settlement, finalized and paid out, with the FTC actually sending 171,450 individual refund payments to affected customers by April 2024. Ring also agreed to 20 years of mandated privacy and security oversight, and was ordered to delete any algorithms or models it had built using footage it had accessed unlawfully. 20 years is not a short window for a regulator to keep checking your homework. That's the kind of oversight period usually reserved for a company the government genuinely doesn't trust to self-correct. Sit with the specific detail from 2017 for a second. This wasn't a hacker halfway across the world. It was someone on the inside, with legitimate login access, spending months searching room by room for the most private space in a stranger's home. And now, the one I've saved for last, because what a hacker found inside these cameras wasn't just embarrassing, it was some of the most vulnerable people in the country, at their most exposed. Taking the #1 spot, Verkada, a cloud-based security camera company sold heavily to businesses, schools, and healthcare facilities, and the entry with the single most disturbing real-world outcome on this entire list. The bait is enterprise trust. Verkada marketed itself to hospitals, schools, and companies that needed to feel confident putting sensitive locations under camera coverage, backed by claims of strong security and regulatory compliance. Here's the mechanic. Verkada experienced at least 2 security breaches between December 2020 and March 2021. The first, in December 2020, involved a hacker installing Mirai botnet malware onto one of Verkada's own servers, after an employee failed to restore proper security settings following maintenance work. The company's own outside security consultants flagged serious gaps after that first incident. Verkada didn't fix them in time. Here's the real outcome taken directly from the FTC and Department of Justice's own complaint. In the March 2021 breach, a hacker gained live access to more than 150,000 Verkada cameras. According to the complaint, the intruder viewed patients resting in beds inside psychiatric hospitals, patients inside women's health clinics, young children playing inside a room, and incarcerated people inside their jail cells. The hacker also pulled physical addresses, floor plans, audio recordings, and customer Wi-Fi credentials. The tell is what Verkada was claiming at the exact same time this was happening. The FTC's complaint states the company was misrepresenting its compliance with HIPAA along with the EU-US and Swiss-US Privacy Shield frameworks, meaning the exact institutions trusting Verkada with their most sensitive footage were relying on compliance claims that weren't actually true. The cost was a $2.95 million penalty, finalized in early 2025, alongside a mandated 20-year security program with outside audits every 2 years. Between 2019 and 2021 alone, Verkada had sold more than 240,000 of these cameras, connected to a single network platform collecting IP addresses, camera locations, usernames, and footage all in one place, meaning one company's security failure had a genuinely enormous surface area to go wrong across. This one earns the top spot because of exactly who was on the other side of that camera. Every entry on this list involves a real privacy failure. This is the only one where the FTC's own complaint names psychiatric patients, women's health patients, and incarcerated people among those exposed, sitting inside the exact places they had every reason to believe were private. That's all 5. Take a breath, because now we're flipping this completely. Here are 4 specific cameras and systems we'd actually trust with this exact job. Here's the good news, buried under everything you just heard. You don't need 5 different fixes for 5 different companies. You need one decision about which system you buy into, and the entire category of risk on this list becomes far less likely to touch you. Safe Choice 1. Logitech Circle View. Built by Logitech, a Swiss and California-based company with no ownership ties to anything on this list, designed to work through Apple's HomeKit secure video system rather than its own general-purpose cloud. No breach history, no deceptive marketing claims, and no national security concerns tied to its ownership. Safe Choice 2. AbodeCam 2. A US-based DIY security company that also supports HomeKit secure video. When set up this way, motion detection and video processing happen locally on your own Apple TV or HomePod, meaning the footage never touches Abode's servers or Apple servers in an unencrypted viewable form at all. Safe Choice 3. HomeKit secure video as the underlying system. This is worth understanding on its own, separate from any single camera brand. Apple built this as end-to-end encrypted by design, meaning Apple itself cannot view your footage, even if legally compelled to try. That's an architectural guarantee, not a marketing promise like the one that got Eufy in trouble, and it's the reason both cameras above are worth trusting in the first place. Safe Choice 4. Unify Protect by Ubiquiti. a local storage-first system that doesn't require a cloud subscription to function, popular with people who want full control over their own footage. One honest note here, because we're not going to hide it the way some of the brands on this list did. Ubiquiti had a major breach headline back in 2021. The full story turned out to be an inside job. A since-convicted rogue employee who stole company data and then posed as an anonymous whistleblower to inflate the story and extort the company. No evidence ever emerged that customer camera footage was exposed. We're telling you that so you have the full picture, not just the headline. One habit worth carrying forward no matter which system you choose. Before you buy any camera, search the brand name alongside the words breach or lawsuit. As you just heard with Hikvision and Dahua, sometimes the company whose name is actually printed on the box isn't the company that built what's inside it. That's 5 security camera brands actively tied to FTC settlements, an FCC national security ban, and a state attorney general action backed by the federal government's own complaints and investigations, and 4 specific systems we'd actually trust to watch the places that matter most to you. The scariest part of this story isn't that these companies got hacked. Companies get hacked. It's what was actually sitting behind that access each time. Not spreadsheets, not browsing habits, bedrooms, hospital rooms, children playing. The exact spaces people bought these cameras to protect. Every single person on this list bought a camera because they wanted to feel safer in their own home, their own hospital, their own classroom, and that's exactly why this one is worth sharing with someone else before they make the same purchase. If this made you think twice about the camera watching your own front door, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which of these 5 you own, or if you've already made the switch to something safer. Share this with anyone in your life who has a camera pointed at their kids, their front door, or their business right now. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because these settlements and bans are still actively moving, and I'll be right here breaking down what changes the moment it happens. Stay sharp, stay safe, and watch the next videos.